I've got my 2 pieces of construction paper with my Kente cloth inspired patterns on them. And now today I'm going to weave them together. So first I'm going to make 1 piece of paper into my warp. So the warp threads are the stationary threads that go up and down vertical. So I'm going to fold my paper in half. Make sure that I know where the creased side of the paper is because that's really important. I'm going to put the creased or folded side of the paper up against this template here. And the template is just there to show me where to draw some lines on my paper. Now remember, you need to be doing this on the creased side, not the opening side. So please double check and triple check and quadruple check to make sure you're on the creased side with these lines. Now I'm going to take my scissors, again I'm on the creased side, and I'm going to cut, and I'm going to cut up, 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 almost to the top, but I'm going to stop when I get to the top because I'm not going to cut all the way. I'm going to continue this all the way across my piece of paper. And here is my warp, the stationary threads that go up and down, vertical. So now I've got my warp. I'm going to use my other piece of paper to create the weft. Now the weft are the threads that go over, under, and across through the warp. So they're horizontal. And these ones we actually weave with. So as you can see, I'm not folding my piece of paper in half this time because I really don't need to. I'm gonna put the lines on it just like I did with the last one, but this time I'm just gonna cut all the way up the paper to make my weft threads. These ones I'm actually going to weave over, under, horizontally through the warp. And of course, I need to number them. I almost forgot because I do want to put them back in order. And this is going to make it a lot easier when they're all cut up. All right, now I have all my weft threads ready to go. I'm gonna take my warp and I am going to start weaving. So I'm gonna start with number 1 here. Make sure I'm completing my pattern in the right way. Okay, so I'm gonna start by going over the first warp thread, under the second warp thread with my weft, then over the next one, and under the one after that. Weaving is a pattern. Over, under, under. Be slow and gentle as you weave because you don't want to skip any warp threads by accident. Then you'll have to pull it all out and start over again. And then make sure to scooch it on up to the top when you're done. Here's my second weft thread. I'm gonna start differently this time. I need to start the opposite way than I started my first one. So we're gonna go under first instead of over first. So under, over. Every time you start to weave a new weft thread through the warp, it needs to start the opposite way as the one before it did. This is going to create kind of a checkerboard pattern look, and it holds the weaving together strong. So always make sure your weft threads are starting out the opposite way as the one right before it. So I went over with the first, under with the second. So I'm gonna start by going over again with the third. And again, over, under, making sure I don't skip any warp threads and scooching them as close as possible together. And as you can see now, I did skip ahead, so I am almost done with my weaving. The last weft thread was a little bit hard to get through, but I did it. I was careful. And as you can see, I do have an extra weft thread hanging around because it didn't quite fit. And that's okay. Oh, I have 2 extras. That's totally fine if you have some extras. I scooted mine up as far as I could, and it all fits pretty well. So if you have some extras, don't worry about it, as long as it's all complete.